Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we figure out how to build and run a SaaS. I'm Brian.
And I'm Benedikt. Each week we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we work on our products and keep the lights on by using solar panels. Today is June 23rd and I'm experimenting.
This is episode number 46, and I am feeling undecided. It's good to be back.
Undecided. Yeah.
Well, it's good to be back, Benedikt. What's funny about that is you're the one who told me, I think you're undecided, because I was sitting here for a solid 30 or 45 seconds like, wait, no, I'm not stuck. Well, I'm not unstuck. I'm not energized. Well, but I do feel kind of flat. You're like, it looks like you're undecided. Yeah. Just like a whole mix of things. But anyway, yeah, it's good to hear your voice. Good to be back. Last week was fun to listen to. Super actionable and really practical.
I feel like this was one of the most actionable episodes we ever did.
Yeah.
So it was great to have Ed on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It feels like ages ago that we recorded an episode together.
I know.
For some reason.
We missed. I guess that's even just as we were starting to record, it's like, man, this feels so good. Just to be back in this flow. We only took 2 weeks off. Here's something very, very coincidental, but that when I noticed it, I was like, that's perfect. Is that the episode where we didn't record and I just, read that piece from Barack Obama and a couple of other things. That was episode number 44. And Barack Obama is the 44th president of the United States. And then the following week, when we were like, we're just not going to publish anything, like we're not going to do anything, that would have been episode 45. And the current president is the 45th president of the United States. When I noticed that, I was like, oh, that is so, you couldn't write that. That's so perfect. So symbolic. Anyway.
So we should have skipped last week, like the episode numbering for last week.
Yeah, that's right.
Episode 45 never happened.
Yes, there is no 45. We just hop over to how are you doing, man?
Yeah, pretty good overall. Weather is nice. Had a nice weekend, and I'm back to work and working on new stuff, and that's always nice and exciting.
Yeah, I gotta. This has happened a couple times. I think that Userlist's marketing campaigns, whether it's just something that you all plan, or it has just been coincidence, but like 30 minutes before we hit record, I got a marketing email from Userlist. I'm like, oh, yeah, great. Talking about the new trigger types. So congrats.
Yeah. Thank you.
How's that rollout going, and how's all that feeling for you?
Going good so far. It's not a coincidence that you get those. It's sort of a coincidence that we don't especially plan it for like to be out before we record. But Tuesday afternoon, at least my time afternoon, is the usual day and time where we send our weekly updates. So that just like matches up nicely.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Jane wrote it in the announcement. This feature feels like one of those features that should have been there from the start, but somehow we skipped on it, and it was fine for the longest time. But it was necessary that we built this feature, and that became apparent like earlier this year when I was on a call with a customer who had trouble setting up his campaigns, and we just like on screen sharing, he walked me through the setup, and he was like, yeah, now I have to create a segment, and I have to go over there and like 3 different menus, and then set it up, and then go back, and I was like, yeah, okay, we totally need this new trigger type, so you can do all of this in one place with a few clicks, and not have to jump through a lot of hoops to get it working the way you want. So that was the motivation we needed to finally work on it and ship it.
Nice. Well, congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
When we were, one of the first times I think we talked about it, you were worried about, or you had some concerns about how it could accidentally kind of over trigger a large
Hmm.
segment of customers? Did how'd you go about handling that, or did that how'd that
Yeah.
resolve?
So in that process, I ended up doing a lot of UI refactoring. Basically, since our last recording, the only thing I did was reworking parts of our UI, mostly centered around the trigger interface.
Mhm.
And with that, I was able to now there's like when you set up this new trigger and just define conditions to start a campaign, it automatically previews, like it automatically counts the users that match that and provides you with a link that you can click on. So as you're building the trigger, you can always double check that it's
Awesome.
triggering for the right people.
Yep.
And we also refactored the way we do warnings and confirmation windows when you're editing and then a running campaign. So while it's still in draft mode, everything's fine. You can just like change
Yeah.
stuff as you wish.
Yep.
But if it's an active live campaign and you're tweaking the trigger, it will alert you and at least tell you that now if you click save now,
Yeah.
things will happen.
Right. Danger zone. Potentially
So
anyway, rather. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it will work out once people are actually using it,
Mhm.
and more people are using it. But I hope it's good enough. And turns out like this like bad stuff could happen even before we had this trigger. One of our customers, I think it was last week, had a campaign set up with a trigger that would start a campaign when people join a segment, and he forgot about that trigger and edited the segment and accidentally sent out emails to 2,000 customers. So it's not like the problem didn't
So,
exist before.
okay.
um, yeah, so hopefully this
Hmm.
this will at least help with that
Cool.
and alert people ahead of time.
Cool. Well, congratulations, and hopefully you see a uptick in conversions and
Yeah, hopefully it will be easier to use
mhm.
that way.
Nice.
What
Nice.
about you? What's new with you?
Oh man. Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's been it's been weeks since we've recorded together. Um and so yeah, in that time, Zoom and Google Calendar integrations are into Headlamp. Stripe Atlas is all set up, and my account there is all good to go. Billing integration is
Nice.
in there. Um, the funny here's what's kind of funny about the Zoom and Google Calendar thing. The way that ended up playing out is like I'd mentioned here several times. I'm just gonna outsource that so that I can keep thinking about some product stuff over here and working on the UI and getting all
Yeah.
that done. So that's what I did. um, and it was really helpful um, in just getting a whole lot of the initial sort of groundwork laid. I ended up in the end rewriting probably, man, I don't know, close to half. I would say at least rewriting close to half of the code that the person I outsourced it to wrote.
Hmm.
It it was pretty brittle. um, it wasn't it. It's not that it wasn't well organized. It's just it wasn't organized the way that I would have organized it, and wasn't named what I would have named it. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so I was trying to think, trying to reflect as I was rewriting these things and stuff, because from time to time I'd be like, ugh, I really should have just done this myself. Like, no, 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 you did the right thing. This good leap forward. Um, but yeah, anyway, I was I'm a little undecided on, do I want to, because I'm looking at Slack and some kind of integration with Whereby. Um, a ton of remote teams use Whereby for their video conferencing. And like, okay, do I want to bounce it off to this person again? They're not familiar with the product, they get it, but I know I'm going to rewrite, a fair amount of what they do. It feels like it's not a it's not absolutely terrible, unusable code, and it's not, "Ooh, yeah, this is perfect." It's, like, right there in that in between where the decision is not obvious. Um, but anyway, I think it was also there was an element of it that was just, like, um, I think I sometimes discredit a little bit to how much back-end work I can actually do. I think I kind of I overly discount how much I know about backend. Um, anyway, so that's where it's at. The next for sure before I even think about Slack and or before I start like truly working on an integration there, I've got a couple of outlines of a demo that it needs to be able to show put together, and it's like it's a matter of me creating some fixtures for those companies and users and like making it operate in that way, recording it and starting to share it out with some folks. um so yeah, that's where I'm at, man. I I definitely stalled out, like hit that 80 to 90% range, where it's like, oh, okay, this next 10% here is going to take as much effort as the first 80, um, in terms of just seeing and feeling that progress. So I'm at that point where I just need to pull together a good handful of use cases to be able to record and talk through a demo, start to share it in a couple of places, and try and get some first customers into it and onboarded. So
Nice.
it's where
That's pretty good progress. Like it sounds like you're getting there, even if the last 10% are
yeah.
taking
It is.
another 4 weeks, but that would be fine, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'll take it. Like the first, the when I jumped back into Headlamp and feeling like, okay, now I have an idea. I've got a vision for where it'll go. Like the first commit was May 7th. So from there to here feels like super, like totally doable, very, very good. Feels like great progress, especially, given, um, that there was the kind of the crisis of race relations in the United States and across the world kind of came to a head in that time. And it was, I think, important for us to kind of put a pause on business as usual. And I think we need to continue to try to not force ourselves back to business as usual for those of us who are white and can just quit thinking about race for a couple of weeks. Um,
Yeah.
so like if it feels like I'll say I'm feeling very good about the amount of progress that I've made, and now like need to take a deep breath, find that second wind, and get get to the real work of having a couple of customers in there using it.
Yeah, sounds like a good milestone.
Yeah.
How you feel about like hiring out parts of that again?
Of the development,
Yeah, like
or
the last 10%, like polishing and
I
stuff like
I
that.
nah, I feel like that part of it really is me.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of, I mean, functionality wise, as I outline the demo for what I think it needs to do and demonstrate, to a manager, this is what the app will look like after you've used it for a month, and 6 months. That is all, completely within my wheelhouse, for both like product vision, design, and development. There's no need for me to hire any of that out. It's all me. Um, the only so yeah, so I think that's where it sits, and I want to try to resist the temptation to say, or tell me what you think. Um, to resist the temptation while I'm working on that to go ahead and scope out a Slack integration, and have somebody else like working on that while I'm finalizing this. So I just kind of want to stay focused because focus is like hard to come by for me right now.
Yeah, yeah. I think that makes sense, especially if the Slack integration isn't essential to the demo.
It would be like it would be a delighter, you know. It's not. It is
Yeah.
not. You're right. It's not essential to the demo, but it'd be one of those like 10-second little. Oh, that was okay. That's a nice little integration. That's.
But you could just mention it as one of the next things to come.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Totally. There you go. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
I like it.
that's where it's at. Man, I wanna gosh, I would love to be able to there's no reason for me to not be able to say this time next week, I will have that demo ready to go. Is there anything I'm not thinking about? I don't think so.
You you'll notice while
Oh gosh.
recording.
Say what? Say what?
You'll notice what's missing while you
Yeah,
record the
there you
demo.
go.
That's
Yeah.
usually how it works.
You're
Like,
totally right. That's what so
when I
I need to say tomorrow at noon, I'm recording the demo so that I will
yeah.
create that list of things.
That's always like when I work in a new feature or something, and then at some point I'm like, yeah, this is done, this is great. Let's do a quick video and show how it works. And you start going through a sequence of steps or whatever, and then suddenly you notice all the problems with it
Yeah.
because it's the first time you're using all of it in
Yep.
one go. And then it's like, oh, okay, I have to go back and redo all of it. There's a funny message in our Slack with Jane where I'm like, yeah, the new trigger is done, it's all working, and sending a link and then clicking the link and playing with it myself, and suddenly I'm like, this part doesn't work at all. It was like a major part of the entire thing.
Oh,
So I had to go back and spend another day on just
yeah.
fixing that part.
Yeah. That's
So it was
that's
like, it's done,
software,
and
man.
2 minutes
Yeah.
after, it was like, okay, it's not done. Yeah.
Well, what else? Yeah, what else you got going on user list wise?
Yeah, like we started working on but the initial plan was to do integrations as the next big thing, but we decided to postpone that a little bit and
Okay.
instead do what I talked about a couple weeks ago, do the multiple users per company and multiple companies per user thing. So we have a data model that actually matches the SaaS use case. And once we have that, then do the integrations, because it felt like if we do the integrations now and then try to add this stuff later, it would just like we'd probably have to redo all the integrations again, because a lot like
The model would
the
be
Stripe
off.
use case is like the best example. Like first trying to shoehorn everything into users and then introducing companies and then trying to switch everything back. It felt like more trouble than necessary, by that could be easily avoided by just doing this one thing first and then doing the integrations after. It's a little bit sad in terms of like the marketing potential of the integrations is for sure a lot bigger, but at least this way we can hopefully build better integrations and
Yeah.
have
Set yourself
a
up.
better effect with that. Yeah.
Move a little bit faster in the future. Sounds
So
like
that's what I'm working on. What I'm working on this week. And like we already have a big document in Notion with all the rabbit holes and problems that are now surfacing now that I start working on it and thinking stuff through, and all the open questions. So it's it's a challenge again to figure out like what parts to do now and what parts maybe to postpone but to plan for. And like it's a lot of sitting in front of the computer just staring at things for 15 minutes without doing
yeah.
anything, and then maybe even going outside, taking a walk, and just thinking about stuff
Yeah.
instead of working on it. But I feel like it's necessary to not mess things up right now and
Mhm.
make things harder for us in the future. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. How do you typically work like think through that sort of problem? Like when like what you just said, sitting there staring at the computer for 15 minutes. Do you have a notebook and you start jotting things down? Do you have a whiteboard that you just like start mapping things out, erase? What's your usual way of thinking through that sort of thing?
Um, all of it. I don't have a notebook anymore, so I just like scribble stuff in Notion or something like that, and
Mhm.
write down notes. Um, a lot of times I'm just doing like code experiments, like just writing dream code or something like that to figure out how things might play together. Um, when I'm in the office, I have a whiteboard there. Sometimes I draw stuff on the whiteboard.
Mhm.
And one thing that I always have to remind myself is to break things down into smaller chunks and figure out one chunk first and then start thinking about the others,
Mhm.
because it's impossible to think about all the things at the same
At the
time.
same time. You just
It
can't
just
hold it.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
So with that improvement, I'm currently just focusing on the data model and not thinking about how segmentation will work, how automations will work, and
Mhm.
all the other stuff, because I know there are so many open questions in there that if I start thinking about those, I will not get the other stuff done. That's somewhat easy. At least I have a path there, and now I'm trying to figure out that part
Yep.
first. And once that's done, I can, yeah, start thinking about the other stuff.
Gotcha.
But it's
Y
hard.
you're
Like it's super hard.
Yeah.
Stay on
Yeah.
track.
Your mastermind group, do you all know each other's businesses well enough that you could say, "Hey, can somebody hop on, um, a video call here and brainstorm, like, go through a whiteboard with me on that?" Or is it still a little bit too.
Yeah, I think it's. I guess we know our businesses like from the business side of things,
Yep,
but from the tech side of things, and that's one struggle I really have, like with asking people for help, is usually the context people need to
yep,
actually understand the problem I'm working on
yep.
is
It's not
is
there.
so large that it's hard to explain.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
that's something I'm actually missing sometimes, like some just having someone who's deeply familiar with all of it, where we can just sit down and work on a problem together.
mhm.
That's the part I'm missing compared to my to my last full-time job 10 years
Yes.
ago.
Yeah.
No, it's not 10 years ago, but a
Uh,
couple years ago.
uh-huh. That's why I was asking, is just while you were when you said that sentence, it's like, yeah, I find myself in that situation all the time of
Yeah,
just like you have just so many things running around, and I don't have you know, uh, like the conference room with the whiteboard where you just grab a couple of folks, pile in there, and for 45 minutes, spend 40
yeah,
minutes running around in circles, and then in 5 minutes, boom, the
yeah,
solution just comes together. It has been 5 plus years since I've had that experience, and I really miss it.
yeah,
Um, it is that is I don't know, man. That is not a solved problem for a remote, and especially, you know, early, like, bootstrap companies like us, where you're the only
yeah,
technical
yeah.
technical person on board. There's just no replacement for the a full-time, engineer who's in it with you.
Yeah, I feel like the remote part, I feel like we could do with that. Like, I think with like the tools out there, it's probably possible to brainstorm stuff remotely, but
Uh-huh.
like just the problem of having someone on the team who's deeply familiar with stuff that where you
Mhm.
don't have to explain every single thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's hard.
Hmm.
Yeah. I,
Well.
I mean, there's so much to it. Like, I mean, the bus test, we are miserably failing it right now.
Mhm.
If I get hit by a bus, business is done more or less.
Trouble.
I mean, it's hopefully not that bad, but I think Jane would be in real trouble. trying to find someone to replace me.
Hmm.
So it would be nice to, and I mean, hopefully someday be able to hire someone and get some
Yeah.
more brain power on the team, and then be able
Yes.
to just do a little bit of pair programming for once again.
Yeah. I guess and that is the other that's kind of the part of it too, is when you adding somebody to the team, you're not just getting their contributions. Ideally, they are making your contributions even better because they solves this problem that we're talking
Yeah,
about right here. Yeah.
yeah,
So, well, what else, man? You've got some notes about some marketing
yeah.
strategy stuff here? What's happening?
We realized that we're somewhat stuck with our marketing.
Okay.
And it's mostly like, it's not like we don't have any ideas. It's just like we suck at executing them, and we're not entirely sure what's a good thing to work on. And I think
Okay.
that plays into the execution problem as well,
Okay.
because like everything we do is like, there's always the question mark: is this a good thing to spend time on, or should we do something else? And then
Okay.
something else comes along and it looks super shiny and nice, and
Mhm.
hey, you should probably do that. And so it feels like we have several ideas, but that are only partly executed. Like,
Can you
for
give some
example,
yeah, give some examples of
one of the things, like a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned your LinkedIn strategy with Edgar and just like reposting the good content. Yeah, we got as far as signing up for Edgar, connecting our accounts, but there's nothing in there, nothing scheduled to get posted and stuff like
yeah,
that. Or we know that we have to improve our SEO game, and we know that we want to have like alternative to pages and comparison pages and stuff like that.
yes.
We have the
Well,
tasks in there, but no one's executing on it.
mhm.
And stuff like that. I mean, several things like that. And then I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago, there was this tweet by Asia Orangio, that she's looking for new clients. And I had been playing with the idea of just like getting in touch with her, because she's like serving this
Exactly who
perfect
you are.
niche
Mhm.
that's exactly targeting us, of SaaS companies who are just starting out and need to figure out what to work on, and like what the marketing should look like. And I suggested to Jane that we should think about this, and that kind of unlocked a lot of things at that moment, and basically got us unstuck. And then we finally, for the first time, like made use of the mentorship in Tiny Seed, and had calls with a lot of people just talking through marketing and what should we do next. This is a good idea to hire someone. Are we missing anything obvious? And that was really helpful. That was like most of last week was just like focused on figuring out what to do next. And funny enough, like we talked to 5 people and you get 5 opinions, and they're like some of the advice is conflicting, which is
Yeah.
kind of a bummer. But then also, I mean, if anything, it's clear that we didn't miss anything obvious.
Mm,
I mean, would have been worse, I guess, if all the people had said like, "Yeah, stupid you, why are you not doing this one obvious thing?" So that
mm,
didn't happen. Um, and now we are really considering to hire Asia
yeah.
to help us with some initial experiments, and trying to figure out like what channels might work for us and what strategies are good. And what's unique about her offering is that she'll do some custom interviews for us, and then figure out a couple of experiments, and then also executing on those experiments. And yeah, we had a call with her, and you know that Futurama meme with "Shut up and take my money."
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my feeling during that call, because it sounded like it's a perfect fit. We haven't, like, there's no signed contract or such thing yet, but
Mhm.
it's looking very likely that we'll hire her for a 3-month
Nice.
engagement to help
Nice.
us figure out where to go. where to go next.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah,
So yeah.
she is freaking brilliant. Um, she had this she posted something on LinkedIn, and we're connected because I had her on Bright and Early, like, way back, and, um and so she had this great post, and I just kinda messaged her, and I was like, "Hey, this, like, hits right on with what I'm trying kinda struggling with right now." And she messaged back and was just like, boom, 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 like you like, kinda like you say, like, at the end of the, 3 messages back and forth conversation with her, it's just like, "Oh my gosh, what c yeah, how can I what can what the heck?" That was too perfect. That was too perfect. Well, keep us posted on if you, yeah, if you guys, um, do decide to hire her and how all that goes, and,
Yeah, we'll
um,
definitely keep you
well,
posted.
and
I'm
people should
excited
go
about
to, demandmaven.com to sign
IO.
up for Asia's work. Oh, designmaven.io, you're right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's the
Cool.
exciting stuff that's happening right now.
Alright.
Anything else that's happening on your side?
Oh, boy, no, not really. Well, yeah, actually, there's a couple of job prospects that are sorta simmering at the
Mhm.
moment, um, where, like, next round of interviews, could be happening in the next week or so,
Ooh,
um,
exciting.
which, well, I'm like, keeping my, yeah, just
Yeah,
managing expectations on it. Just like, okay, cool, yep, just gonna let it
but
do what it does, but I'm not putting any eggs in
yeah,
that basket.
but it seems like the job market is slowly booting up
Is
again.
Yeah, it feels like it is, anecdotally for me, it has felt like, oh, okay, yeah, more folks are emailing back and more
Mhm.
postings are coming up. So yeah, I'll let you know where that goes.
Cool. Yeah,
Not banking on anything, but just keeping the process moving.
sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I guess that's it for this week.
That's it for this week. I'll have a demo for you next week.
Nice.
I've,
I'm
I've promised
counting on
you
it.
now. Yeah. Oh gosh. You can point out all the
Public
things I should have
commitment.
thought of. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
follow us on Twitter at slowsteadypod, and show notes and stuff at slowandsteadypodcast.com.
Yep. See you next week. Bye.